Hey everyone, so this is Chicago Fire, Season 6, Episode 1. Before I get into the episode itself, I want to give a little background information just in case um, anybody new is watching this and don't know what's been going on since the end of Season 5 and what's happened in the first 5 episodes, because this is Episode 6 here. So basically, at the end of Season 5, um, Firehouse 51, all of Firehouse 51, including Rescue Squad, um, Truck 81, and Ambulance 61, had gotten a call to I believe it was a warehouse fire. I don't remember exactly, but I believe it was a warehouse fire. And basically, um, like, basically, Matthew Casey, um, uh, Matthew Casey, um, um, I'm gonna have to go to the actual season for a second because I can't remember exactly who was actually caught in the fire. I remember it was Casey. I know Herman was in there, and I know Mouch was in there too. Um, but I think that was it. But I don't know. Let me just check. Um, well, it doesn't say, but basically, Mouch, Matthew Casey, and Chris Herman are definitely the ones who were that I remember definitely remember the ones who were trapped inside the warehouse fire. Um, and Mouch had a heart attack during the fire, and so Herman was, giving him CPR because he had a heart attack, and so he's laying on the floor. So basically, that's what happened at the end of the episode. But throughout the actual season finale, um, there was tension between Mouch and Joe Cruz, because Cruz had a side job, gotten a side job sometime during the season, and then got in trouble for having exposed his CFD tattoo while he was throwing a rowdy person out of a bar. Um, Not the Molly's bar, but that they own, but a bar that he was working at as a bouncer, and so he got suspended for it, and Mouch said that he was going to help him out, and he couldn't help him out, and so there was tension building up because of that, and so at the end of the episode, you see Joe Cruz, all getting emotional because he said some things to Mouch that he regretted, and so that kind of brings us into season 6, where for the first few episodes of season 6, you see Cruz kind of going above and beyond to, make it up to Mouch for the things that he said after everything had gone down, and so he's basically being his slave, guess you could say. So that doesn't last too long, but that's basically what happens with those two characters. Um, and then what also comes into what also happens within the first 5 episodes is that Casey gets promoted to captain because he was previously a lieutenant Both him and Severide were both lieutenants, and now he's a captain, so he got promoted. Also, in the first episode, um, Sylvie Brett's childhood friend, Hope, comes into town in the first episode. Um, and so, um, and she pretty much lasts until, I guess, this episode. I'm not sure if she's gonna be back, but or last night's episode, she's here. She's at least here until last night's episode. I don't know if she's gonna be here later or gonna come back up in future episodes of the season or what. But the first two episodes also deal with Chief Bowden's wife Donna, who went from working in like a preschool or elementary school to teaching. No, I think she actually. Well, I think she actually taught middle school, but I don't remember. But she goes from that setting to high school, and so first day of her job, a chemistry lab explosion happens, and she believes that a student had started the fire. So you had that storyline for the first two episodes, but the more pressing storyline that's been happening over these first six episodes was Sylvie's friend Hope, who has been doing some very questionable things since the first episode, and Stella Kid has noticed that what she has said and done really isn't all that it's cracked up to be, and that she's obviously hiding something, and all that. So, and it just builds up until this episode, and basically, everyone doesn't really believe her because of the fact that, like, Hope started sleeping with Kelly Severide at the beginning of the season, and then they stopped, and then before, I don't remember if Stella actually slept with Severide or if she wanted to, but it never happened. But she obviously has a thing for Severide, but people don't really believe her because, she obviously has this crush on Severide, and it's just like they don't want to believe her because she sounded like she sounded like the spurned lover or something like that, or something. I don't know, like just basically not believing her. So basically, this is where episode 6 comes into play, where at the beginning of the episode, it's called Down is Better, by the way. So Dawson is having breakfast with her father, Ramon, and so he's basically talking to her about this job that he just started working at a month before, and he wants to, he wants to sort of pitch ideas to his boss, and Dawson is like, well, why do you want to do that? You've only been working there a month. Why don't you first, get at least a year under your belt before you start going off and pitching ideas? Because, I mean, that makes sense. Like, you just started working there, so why don't you? I mean, at least you're being asked to pitch ideas to somebody. Don't do it. Don't just go on your own initiative and pitch ideas if you haven't been explicitly asked by your boss. That makes sense. So he kind of continued to try to get, and he wants to have Casey basically vouch for him, but he tries to get Casey to do that, like get her to get Casey to do that for him, and she just squashes it right there. So then and that's one whole story thread that's throughout the episode. Another one is that Otis, on the way to work with Cruz, sees another bar going out of business, and he starts thinking about telling this to Herman and Dawson to, expand Molly's. So that's another one. The other is obviously Stella, because that's the actual meat of the entire thing. So, but before we get to Stella's storyline, we see Otis bringing up his idea to Herman, but he shoots Herman down. Then you see, Dawson telling her concerns about her father to Brett, and and all that. So, and then Stella gets word after a harrowing rescue at a restaurant fire. She gets word that she's being transferred to the Office of Public Relations. So after trying to talk to Casey separate and Mouch, they all find out that from Bowden that there isn't really much that can help, since the transfer is happening next during the next shift or before next shift. So later that night, Stella's not able to sleep, and so she goes to the common area where everyone eats and relaxes before the next call comes in. And she's talking to Mouch because Mouch is up and he's watching TV. So he's like, well, this could be this transfer could be a blessing in disguise, but she doesn't feel like it is, because she's always been a firefighter. She always wanted to be a firefighter, and she feels like it's in her blood, basically. And so she gets asked, well, why did you want to be one in the first place? And she recounts having gone into a car that she wasn't supposed to have gone into, and CFD helped her get out. So she vowed to help people get out of bad places as well. So that's why she wants to. So that's why she doesn't want to be transferred out of the firefighter position. So Hope then tries to get Sarai to start hanging out again, aka sleeping together, and he's like, you know what, no, that's not gonna happen. So Brett sees this conversation going on, but doesn't say anything. So Dawson then hears from Casey that her father has been throwing Casey's name around to an alderman for rezoning purposes. So she says she's going to handle it, and so then you see Otis trying to talk to the owner of the closing bar, but the owner isn't too pleased. He's this older gentleman, and he's not too pleased that Otis is, sniffing around, and he's like, well, you're here to feast on my dead carcass or something like that. And but he eventually ends up making his pitch to talking to his daughter Lily and all that stuff. So then it goes to Molly's later that night. Dawson's trying to get a hold of her father, but she only gets his voicemail. Stella ends up getting drunk at Molly's, then taken home by Severide, and she tries to kiss him, but he turns her down because clearly she wants more. But hungover the next morning, Stella claims that she can't remember anything after Molly's, but it's clear that she does, at least to me. Casey and Bowden then go to see Chief um, Chief Huffines, who Stella will be working under, um, and he says that he didn't request her, but that's what Bowden was told, and so Bowden confronts Huffines about it, and it's just yeah. Um, so back at the station, back at the firehouse, Casey meets new firefighter Manfredi, and Otis brings Herman a business plan to partner with Molly's, or to partner with the closing bar. And Herman says he'll think about it, which is, I mean, basically the next step to actually doing it. So, so Otis goes to tell Lily the news outside, but warns her not to tell her father about saying anything because he hasn't actually closed the deal yet. So, then Ramon comes to the firehouse. And he tells Dawson that he's on probation at work. Well, and I'm just sitting there like, well, that's exactly what you get, because you never got permission to start using Casey's name around town, let alone to an alderman of all people. So why the fuck your ass surprised that you got put on probation at your job? Why are you surprised? Like, why is your ass surprised? So Ramon is like, well, if I didn't need Casey's help before, I certainly do now to get my job back. So he's like, well, if I didn't need his help now, I'm gonna need it now. But Dawson then goes off on him, and which he should have, because, like, come on now, you can't just do shit willy-nilly and then expect everything to be okay. You can't do that. So he says he's right, apologizes, and then leaves. So Stella shows up at her new job, and basically right away, Huffines comes up and tells her how she will say how well CFD is to women and minorities, and to wear her hair down for it, because apparently she's gonna be talking for the cameras, and yeah. So back at 51, Casey asks Manfredi where he was before 51, and he rattles off several places. I didn't even write it down because I was like, what's the point? Like, he just rattles off several different houses he's been at. And then he talks about how his friend at who works in CPD always gets the best districts due to his uncle. So Casey and Herman then go run an errand. They go see Demetra, who has a soft spot for Herman because Demetra and Herman's wife, oh god, her freaking name is escaping me at the moment, but Herman's wife and Demetra went to the same university, so they're like friends and all that, and hang out after work once in a while. So that's why Casey brought him along, so that they could get the transfer papers quicker. And so they do, and they see that Chief Mullins gave the transfer for Stella, and he's the same man who gave Casey his promotion. So they go see Mullins, and show him they ask him about the transfer by showing him the transfer papers with his signature on it. So it then goes back to 51, where Bowden asks Hope to go come into the room where they hold job the job announcements, where job announcements are given, and they do that, I think, before every shift. And we find out the signature on the bottom of the transfer order wasn't actually written by Mullins. It was by Hope. And pretty much from jump, I knew she did it. I mean, for a second, when they went to when Casey and Herman went up to Mullins and showed him the transfer papers, I thought for a split second that he was the one who actually did it. But pretty much up until that point, I figured Hope was the one who transferred, who tried to get Stella transferred. I figured, like, somehow she managed to either I mean, I figured she had some way convinced Mullins to transfer Stella somehow. I mean, but I figured somehow she was involved in it, if she wasn't the sole person for doing it. But turns out she forged his signature on the papers, and so now caught in a lie, she tries to blame it on Connie, then backtracks when Bolden's like, don't play me for a fucking fool, and she's like, well, she's trying to explain it away by saying, well, she saw the job posting, and then it's just like, girl, come on, do you really expect people to believe that shit? So then Bolden fires her, and then after shift, Brett then goes home and sees Hope sitting outside of her apartment building, and Hope again tries to defend herself by saying, well, oh, I think Connie always had it out for me. She does that first. Well, actually, I don't remember which happened first. Which happens first. Well, no, I think she tried to blame Connie again first, and then she tried to blame it on the fact that, you know, women are getting a raw deal in the fire department, and Brett is not here for it, which I'm glad, because, like, I mean, just because, I mean, I get that she's your friend, but, I mean, you got to admit that she's been doing some just been, I mean, ever since she came here, there's been some questionable things going on ever since she got there. So, I mean, when nothing ever questionable, like a kid losing her, Stella losing her paycheck last episode, and, you know, and we also find out that she stole $10,000 from her old boss, and until like Hope tried to friggin' blame it on the fact that, like, she was framed and shit. And so it's just like, she's been doing very questionable things ever since she got there. And so I'm just like, okay, glad you're finally opening your eyes, Brett, but that doesn't excuse you basically calling Stella a liar when you're calling her your friend. Like, you're calling her and everyone around you your friend and friends, and, like, you're doing all that, and then, like, what? And it's like, how you gonna call? I mean, I get that Hope is your longest friend there, but, like, okay. Anyway, so you then see Otis, Dawson, and Herman going to the bar that's closing to make an offer. We don't necessarily see that happening, but I assume that's what's gonna start happening. The only reason why I say I assume is because of the fact that this is the fall finale, which I personally think is a little too early, because it's only the freaking beginning of November. Like, what the fuck? How are you gonna have a fall finale in the beginning of November? Like, beginning of December, okay, I can see you having a fall finale. That's during that period, but don't have a fall finale like 2 months, like, just when fall begins. Like, I mean, do it when fall is supposed to end, which, I mean, I guess it's technically December 21st, but, I mean, most shows don't have fall finales that on that day. They do it at the beginning of December. But um, so beginning of next shift, assignment's about to be given out, but Brett gets up and, tells everyone, well, I apologize for what my former friend did. And before she can really, I guess, before she can really specifically apologize to Stella, Ambulance 61 gets a call for about a person down. So she and Dawson get to the crime scene, or not the crime scene, but to the scene, and which is a subway platform, and they find it's Roman who was stabbed, because they get preliminary information once they're on the scene about a crazy man wielding a knife and having stabbed someone, and they turn the guy over and find it's Ramon. And let me tell you, when I when I heard that, when I saw that scene, I was like, please do not have the person who was stabbed be Hope. I really was just like, please don't let that be the person who was stabbed. And I get that they said man down, but still, I was hoping that it was not Hope who was stabbed, because wow, I was just like, if you have her stabbed after all the shit that she has done, or you wrote her to have done, I'll be fucking pissed. And I'll be pissed. Cause like this whole storyline needs to be wrapped up by now. Like, and personally, if I were Stella, I would not forgive Brett for a little while, because Brett made Stella feel like Stella was, crazy. She was crazy and hallucinating shit, or making like delusional about Hope, and when in actuality her friend ain't shit. So I'm glad that Hope was exposed, and I hope that I'm hoping that if they have to bring Hope back later in the season, they do it in like March or April after they come back, or preferably in the season finale or something, because I'm kind of tired of her and her damn bullshit, because Hope ain't shit. She ain't shit. So she got caught in a lie, and so she tried to blame it on Stella, because Stella clearly didn't like her ass and was basically calling her on her fucking bullshit. I mean, this is kind of the same storyline as a few seasons ago, when I think it was either Otis or Cruz who had an issue with, I think, one of Severide's friends who was working on Squad 3, and they just didn't, there was something about that guy that I believe it was Otis, that Otis didn't like, and how basically it was exposed that, this dude was into some questionable things, and was actually found out that he was starting fires. Considering, and it's funny considering that he was a firefighter himself, and he ended up getting pretty bad burns on his face and body. So that's kind of reminiscent of that storyline a few seasons ago. But yeah, except the fact that it's a woman, like it's two women friends, and the friend in question that's doing some very suspect things is actually working um, as Connie's kind of a like junior position. So yeah, it's kind of like that. So I'm just like, yeah, I still hope that Stella doesn't forgive Brett right away, because Brett was just all kinds of just blind. I mean, like I said, I get that she's your friend, but like, come on, there was obviously some suspect shit going on ever since she got there. So it's just like, I mean, anyway. So I'm gonna wrap this up now, um, and I will see. And like I said, this is the fall finale for this show, so hopefully they'll come back fairly soon in the new year, like sometime in January. I think hopefully January, like mid-January, hopefully. But you never know. I mean, since they're going off this early, I assume they're gonna be coming back in early January, like sometime between January 4th and like January 11th. I don't know though. I mean, I'm just assuming since they're going off this damn early, but you never know. So I think I'm gonna start doing Chicago PD again. They didn't say that next week was a fall finale for Chicago PD. Um, I only assume that because they didn't have an episode this week, so they might have an episode next week and the week after that. Hopefully, they won't go off for the holidays until like early December, hopefully. But so yeah, I'm thinking about doing Chicago PD again to fill some time up. But until then, I will see you guys hopefully Wednesday for true crime. Hopefully, if not, then Thursday next week. So until then, I will see you guys later.